All right, today is Wednesday, July 27th. It's 4 o'clock. We are here in the Washington City Council chambers for our workshop meeting. We have a great agenda tonight. I'll call for an approval of the agenda as outlined.
So
Merrill?
moved.
Well, second.
I have a motion by Martinson, second by Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. Move on to item number 2, which is a legislative update. So we are really grateful to have each of you in attendance tonight. When I was considering just the relationships and the importance of us as elected officials, knowing our representatives at the state and federal level, I thought it would be wonderful if we could have each of you come and just give us a little bit of an update. So we look forward to hearing that. I'll just give you a little bit of an update on Washington. We continue to be one of the fastest growing cities in Utah, which is the fastest growing state in the nation. In fact, I think we still are per capita the fastest growing city. Although I do qualify that by saying we're not chasing growth, but it certainly is chasing us. In fact, to put that into perspective, we've about doubled in size each of the last 3 decades. And we've grown by close to 50% in just the last 10 years alone. So we're pushing a population of about 30,000 full-time residents. And if you take into account the secondary residents, mostly from the Wasatch Front, we're closer to 40,000. So I think it's wonderful for each of you to be here, to know that we support you and your positions, and we appreciate the support that you give us, and also just the opportunity to recognize that with our growth, Washington, we're growing into our own identity, and so historically we've been very content to rely on some of our neighbors for a lot of the services and policies and things, but we're certainly coming into our own here in Washington. So we've got, it looks like, representatives from Senator Lee and Senator Romney's office, a representative from Congressman Stewart's office. Senator Vickers is in the conference room on a Zoom meeting. He will step in and join us. And then we have newly appointed, soon to be elected State Representative Colin Jack. So we're grateful to have each of you here. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to have just, if you want to take 5 or so minutes to just introduce yourself, introduce the person that you represent, give us some updates, some highlights, some things you feel like we need to know, and then I'd just like to open it up to the council, maybe to ask a few questions and have just a little bit of an interaction, and then we'll move on to an update from the hospital, and then also from the Orthodox Christian Church here. So Heath Hansen, I know you're a great golfer tonight. You're going to be leadoff batter. If you'll just come on forward and give us an update from Senator Lee's office and anything else that you think we need to know.
You obviously didn't see me golf out there, Mayor, but so I'm Heath Hansen. I'm with Senator Mike Lee's office. I'm a Southern Utah director. Appreciate the opportunity, the invitation to come and speak to you again today. So top of Senator Lee's mind while he's back in DC is the inflation that we're experiencing throughout the country and throughout Utah. Senator Lee is in a unique position as the ranking member of the Joint Economic Committee. And so he has compiled a team of researchers back there to kind of dig into what's going on with inflation. And so the last report that they have, they come out with a monthly report. There's an inflation tracker on his website at jec.republicans.gov. You can go and find this inflation tracker. As of their last month's report, inflation had hit 13.3% nationally. And that in real numbers, that means that the average household in America is paying around $718 more per month on basic goods, housing, energy, transportation, and food than they were at this point last year. In Utah, it's even worse. We're experiencing almost a 15% inflation just in Utah, and that equates to about $881 more in monthly expenditures for the average Utah household. It's obviously a huge problem, multifaceted problem, and so Senator Lee has kind of taken a holistic approach as he's looked to deal with inflationary pressures. One of the pieces of legislation he's introduced is called the Price Act. One of the biggest drivers of inflation is federal spending, as we've just completely blown the doors off of federal spending in the past couple of years. We've seen inflation steadily rise. And so the Price Act, what it would do is it would require a new rule in the Senate. It would require a 2/3 majority to pass any spending legislation through the Senate if inflation was at 3% or higher. This bill, Senator Lee actually proposed it as an amendment to the budget bill last year. It got 49 votes. So depending on how things shake out in November, if we can get another Republican or two in the Senate, hopefully we can get that passed, try to bring some sort of common sense back to federal spending and federal budgeting. Another driver is obviously food. And one of the things we've been noticing quite a bit lately is the lack of baby formula on store shelves. At some point in the past few months, the out of stock rate for baby formula in Utah had hit 90%. So it's being felt acutely in Utah, especially in rural communities. Senator Lee had been working on a bill called the Formula Act, which would reduce temporarily some tariffs on foreign formula and also claw back some regulatory authority from the FDA that was making it harder to get baby formula on the shelves. Senator Lee was able to come to a compromise with his colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the Senate and also in the House. And so his Formula Act passed the Senate unanimously, and then Congressman Earl Blumenauer, a Democrat from Oregon, ran it in the House with the support of Congressman Chris Stewart. So it has now passed both chambers. President Biden signed it into law last week. And what it does is it would get rid of some of right now there's a 17.5% tariff on importing baby formula into the US. So it would temporarily scrap that for the duration of this year. And hopefully that will make it a little bit easier and cheaper to get baby formula imported from Europe and other countries that have similar or higher standards on baby formula into the US. So we were excited to see that finally signed into law. On a more local level, the Northern Corridor has obviously been a big issue for everyone in the county and for Senator Lee and the rest of the federal delegation. There was a letter sent by some congressional Democrats a few weeks ago urging the Department of the Interior to withdraw the record of decision that was reached in the early parts of January of 2021, which would basically undo the Habitat Conservation Plan and get rid of the Northern Corridor. So Senator Lee and the rest of the Utah delegation joined with the state of Utah and also Washington County in sending a response letter to the Department of the Interior, urging them to work with DOJ to fully and actively defend the litigation that's going on over the record of decision with regard to the Northern Corridor. So that's something Senator Lee is continuing to keep his eye on. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll stop there, but open to any questions if you have any.
Council, questions or thoughts for Mr. Hansen?
We've certainly felt the impact of inflation here in Washington City. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is you raise interest rates to try to adjust that. Can you give us any indication of what else maybe Senator Lee is looking at, just so we're a little more informed on what that could look like?
Yeah, with regard to interest rates or just inflation generally?
Being able to adjust the inflation rate and correct it.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there's kind of four main components they look at when measuring inflation. It's transportation, energy, housing, and food. One of the other components that Senator Lee has tried to tackle is the energy component. So when President Biden came into office, he immediately put a pause on all energy leases on federal lands, which has obviously caused some serious supply restraints. And in fact, another project that Senator Lee's Joint Economic Committee team has been looking at the kind of energy, because we've had different arguments. The administration is saying, oh, the reason gas prices, energy prices are so high is because of Putin invading Ukraine and because oil and gas companies are somehow colluding to keep prices high. Just this week, Senator Lee's team at the Joint Economic Committee produced a report that showed that about 70% of the increase in energy and gas prices can be attributable to suppressed supply and increased demand, and only about 30% can be attributed to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Senator Lee has introduced legislation that would require congressional approval if any president in the future wants to put a moratorium on energy production on federal lands. Senator Lee views that as kind of a constitutional issue. The president shouldn't have unilateral authority to just say, we're pausing all energy leasing on federal land. So that's another policy he's pursuing to help with the energy inflation.
Council, additional thoughts or questions for Heath? We feel like we know you. You interact with us a lot. We appreciate everything that you're doing. We appreciate everything that that Senator Lee and his office is doing to represent us. And we know that he knows who we are and that he represents us well. One thing I've asked Councilman Martinson to just give each of you guys tonight a pin. This is a little pin of a cotton ball. One thing I should have said in introducing Washington to each of you is that we were settled in 1857 as part of what was called the Cotton Mission. In fact, Washington in this area was referred to as Dixie prior to that. So this cotton mill kind of goes back to our roots and is the logo that we have here. And so, Councilman, would you mind giving Heath one of those pins?
Well, thank you. And I will get that to Senator Lee. If any of you have been back to Senator Lee's Washington, D.C. office, he collects these and he's got a nice pin up on his wall of a lot of the pins that he gets. So he'll be very grateful.
Well, yeah, tell him that's from the Washington City Mayor and Council and that we appreciate his leadership and everything he's doing there in the Senate.
Will do. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Heath. Okay, next up is Mr. Kyle Wilson, who is Senator Romney's Southern Utah Director. We're grateful to have you here tonight.
It's good to be here. I'm Kyle Wilson, and I live in Enterprise. I do a little farming up there, and my background is in agriculture, ag economics, and ag policy. I've only been Southern Utah Director for about 2.5 months, so I appreciate you guys welcoming me. I've got a list of bills that we're working on here. The first of which is we're sponsoring a bill that requires the Biden administration to establish a Black Sea strategy because, as we're well aware, the war in Ukraine is threatening a lot of Ukraine's neighbors. We're having global food supply problems and so on and so forth, and we need to have a game plan in that region going forward. So that bill would require this administration to do so. On a separate but related issue, we will probably see expedited approval of Finland and Sweden into NATO coming here shortly. Again, on the international level, we're presently working on a number of bills to hedge up against our reliance on China, specifically microchip manufacturing. You guys have probably seen that in the news. Something we're actively working on, however. This week, we called for an audit of President Biden's $10 billion COVID public education campaign. We want to see where all those dollars and cents are being spent.
Can you just repeat that number real quick? I want to make sure I understand.
We called for an audit on President Biden's $10 billion with the B,
all right.
COVID public education campaign. And in my short tenure here, a good deal of my time on the ground is spent working with agencies to ensure that that the infrastructure law, for example, is being executed in a manner that goes along with how it was written. Yeah, on a local level, we've had 2 Utahns added to the Federal Wildfire Commission, which is a valuable thing for us to have because, you know, as the drought persists, we continue to run into drought-related fire and watershed problems. Again, along those lines, BLM and USDA are currently accepting comments for definitions of old growth and mature forests. Those comments and definitions will define our watershed. A lot of what happens uphill in Pine Valley is going to dictate our water supply going forward. So being involved in that policy development is going to be important for our community. Likewise, USDA is currently accepting applications for wildfire defense, and it doesn't have to be any particular entity to go after that money. That money is also funded by the infrastructure law. We'd love to see some of that money spent here in Washington County. We recently introduced a bill with Congressman Owens and Congressman Stewart to investigate data-driven solutions for the decreasing inflows in the Great Salt Lake. hopefully we can identify some processes and mitigate that problem going forward. A lot of shooting from the hip right now. We want to try to make sense of how we can fix that. We're currently negotiating child tax credit reform with the Democrats. We want to include clearer income parameters, work incentives, and we want to limit those child tax credits to people with Social Security numbers. Something we're currently working on. Just as a general policy, we on agriculture, for example, we favor trade policies that support open markets for Utah ag exports, voluntary conservation programs, voluntary participation in carbon markets. And on the public land front, we are fighting alongside stakeholders like Plipco from the governor's office and the rest of our delegation to make sure that we in Utah have a bigger say in the management of public lands. We've had the privilege of co-sponsoring the Houses Act with Senator Lee, for example, that would transfer BLM land that borders municipalities within a certain parameter to the cities to create some affordable housing. But yeah, lots going on, and it's a pleasure to be here. And if I can be a resource for you guys going forward, I'd love to. Any questions?
We're not going to let him off that easy.
What do you grow up in Enterprise? Corn or
No, we grow
alfalfa?
pumpkins, tomatoes, and we raise some sheep and hay too.
Awesome.
I have a harder question.
Shoot. I can handle those softballs.
Where's
all
the
day.
pipeline at? Oh, that's all he probably needs to say, I guess.
Yeah, it's in
Oh, it got
in
stalled out with the current-
administrative limbo. I feel like it'll probably happen.
You feel like it'll probably happen?
Yep, that's about as confident as I can.
So,
make a
so
statement on the
this is
issue.
my opinion back to if it matters as you go
totally
up the
matters.
chain, is that I understand that that's one source. We just got to look at other options. So,
I totally agree.
and if it doesn't happen, I hope it does, but it can't be our only option. And that's what I'm concerned is that's been our only option for too long. And so I'm hope that we have some help finding other options, I guess.
I think you have great leadership in the Water Conservancy District.
Yes, we do.
And I'm confident that there's a light at the end of that tunnel, however far away.
You know, I would just add, I'm glad that you mentioned the Houses Act. For me personally, and I don't know if the council would want this as well, but I would love for you if you share our appreciation to Senator Romney for his support of the Houses Act. That's something that we see is vital and that we need it badly.
One of our water challenges is we have a coastal state that uses most of the internal water. Is Senator Romney working with any initiative to get California to desalinate and convert their water consumption from internal water to coastal water?
So desalination specifically hasn't come up in my experience, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't come up at all. I know that the senator and our staff is working pretty heavily on issues as surrounding the Colorado River Compact.
Yeah, I can tell you that the Department of the Interior has asked the lower basin states to cut their use by about 25%, and that some of those lower basin states that are not coastal are actually looking into desalinization in California in trade for more water in their states. But one thing that I want to make sure that all of our representatives on the state and federal level recognize that's critical for this area, there's no doubt that the Lake Powell pipeline is very important and remains, kind of that big target that we want. In the meantime, a regional reuse funding for infrastructure for a regional reuse system is critical. So that's something that you're gonna hear from me, probably from the other mayors and councils, and also from the Washington County Water Conservancy District, that we definitely want your buy-in and support as we currently about 13 million gallons of water per day go through the St. George wastewater treatment plant. And we're able to recapture, about 120 million of that. But if we could get that regional reuse system where we reuse and reuse, we can turn that into about 400 billion plus gallons per year.
And
Excuse me, I didn't mean to say 400. I meant to say 5 billion gallons per year. So regional reuse would be infrastructure in terms of reservoirs, pump stations, additional pipelines. That's something I think that the councilman talks about that's that's maybe shorter term, but still looking for that long-term pipeline project.
Not to go down a rabbit hole too far, but the way that the state of Utah accounts for water use is it differs from other basin states.
That's true.
And so we are at a competitive disadvantage for federal funding in that regard.
Because we count it accurately.
Right. We are far more demanding of ourselves than our neighbors are, and our accounting reflects that. So just going forward, if that's something, and we ought to, a road we want to go down, then something will have to change.
That's awesome. Hey, we are really grateful to get to know you. Any other questions for Kyle? We appreciate someone who's homegrown, representing Senator Romney's office. We appreciate his leadership, his service there in the Senate. I've always felt a little bit of a connection to Senator Romney because we served in the same mission. So tell him bonjour from Mayor Staley. And Councilman, if you wouldn't mind sending a pin back from Washington City. Hey, Kyle, just make sure he knows where we are on the map, okay? Tell him not to be a stranger. Wherever he comes through Southern Utah, have him say he's going to Washington.
We are planning visits for August recess.
We would love to host and visit if he comes through. Thank you. Great. Next up is someone we all know very well, Lorene Cox. She is Representative Stewart's Southern Utah Director. It's good to see you, Lorene.
Thank you. I bring it down now. It's really good that you had them speak first, because now they've explained everything that's in my book. And so now I get my take on it. First off, I want to do some invitations to each of you. I think you've got, or some of you may have gotten an invitation to our community project funding workshop, and that's on August 8th at 11 o'clock. And we'd love to have any of you that would like to come and learn what the community project funding is about and what we need to do to capture it in the next year. The second one is on August 5th. We've got our Stewart Security Summit up at Little America in Salt Lake. And that's going to be amazing. It'll happen on this coming, a week from Friday. And you just can go online at his website and be able to register there. He's got a pretty great group coming to speak. I think he'll be well served if you wanted to go. Then the third, on August 17th, we're going to have our Mayor Cress Daly welcome the congressman here for a town hall. So it'll be right here over in the Washington Library, the Washington County Library, Washington. Anyway.
The Washington City branch, yes.
Thank you, branch. I could not get that word out of my mouth. So Congressman Stewart, back in 21, President Trump passed in the bill the 988 Suicide Prevention Act, and he's a proud sponsor. That first was initiated between Senator Hatch and Congressman Stewart, and Congressman Stewart brought it forward. And it, just a couple of weeks ago, it was put into effect, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome, pretty important. The
Tell us,
Formula
so
Act,
that's the
go ahead.
988, is that right?
988.
And what is that for again? I remember just reading the headline.
It's similar to if you dial 911, you get emergency that way. My understanding is 988 is going to be, it's going to be coming from the emergency operations in the county as well. The people who do 911 will also answer for 988. And they'll be able to help someone who is suicidal, which is that's really amazing.
So it's
I think
kind of a
and very
crisis
well
line.
needed. A crisis line, more of a crisis line than an emergency line.
Is there concerns with the county about overloading that system by doing that?
I don't know that answer.
I know that we always are, those lines are always overloaded. And so it's a question I have is that if we're adding additional people who hopefully we can help them not be a statistic on 911 and help them with that. I just wonder if there's some concern about the overloading of that, if they're the same people taking the same calls.
They are the same people. And I don't really know how they're going to work that out, whether they hire more people or they don't. And who's to say maybe the state will help with that? I don't know. But I can find that out, and I'll try to find it out for you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. So the Formula Act was also one that Heath explained, and Congressman Stewart helped with that one, signed into law by both Senator Lee and Congressman Stewart. Brand new, though, that was just introduced in committee this last week as a public land search and rescue bill. It's not numbered yet because it's just brand new. But the idea of that is there are so many public lands, and our search and rescue people have to go out and assist people from out of state, people that have come to the public lands to enjoy a vacation and get into trouble. I don't know that it's going to be as beneficial for Washington County as it will for some of the smaller, like Garfield and Kane, that
San
has a
Juan.
smaller population. And say that again?
Our city manager's from Blanding, so I had to say
On
San Juan.
Blanding. Yeah, it should help them a lot. And I always am pushing for it to help Washington County. That's a little bit, have a heart there. It's a bipartisan bill. It was originally ran by one Republican, which Congressman Stewart, and by a Democrat, and now they're reaching out for more. They want to keep it a bipartisan. The Salt Lake Recovery Act, I think Kyle spoke a little bit about that, where there is a bill number, HR 8389, introduced July 14th, that has now been forwarded to the Water Resource and Environmental Committee. I'm going to pass this one. The BLM, the BLM land that the UNU, we're trying to help them as well, getting some BLM land, about 593 acres. So that's all I have. Oh, there is one other. The EPA and the Department of Interior, during the last administration, they had a pretty nice oversight committee investigating those, and the new administration has removed that. The oversight committee is investigating, and they're going to try to urge them to be more transparent. So that's on the list. So any questions for me? And
All
hope
right.
I can answer them if you
I know you've
ask.
saved the hard questions for Lorene. Okay,
Good.
we'll ask soft questions, comments.
So I just urge you to sign up for some of these things. And Chris, I don't know that you have, I resent the email again today for Community Project, and you're all welcome. That's
So I
going
got
to be
your
really
email today,
important.
and so I know our recorder's got it on my schedule. I'll have her email it to the council as well, just for
Okay.
any others that'd like to attend. And really appreciate how engaged you are. I mean, it's just, you're really just kind of part of the fabric of this community, and it's really easy to
Oh.
feel connected to the congressman with all the work that you do.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you. I'm brand new, so I'm trying to get my feet under this side instead of the election side. And anyway, I'm trying. Anyway, thank you. I
And-
hope to see you there.
And if you could send a pin back to send the congressman, and just also with our regards and gratitude for all the work that he's doing for Southern Utah and for our city.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. I'll make sure he gets it.
Thank you. All right.
He's here.
Senator Vickers, it's perfect timing. I know you've been on a Zoom meeting in there. Appreciate you stepping in. Appreciate you coming down and to give us a legislative update. And if you just introduce us a little bit to yourself and to your roles there on the Hill and
Sure, thank
anything
you.
else you'd like to share with this
Well, I
council.
appreciate you letting me use your conference room. I've co-chairing a medical cannabis meeting in there. So if anybody wants to go in there and maybe get bored, maybe get excited,
We'll make sure it doesn't smell like marijuana in there after.
there's no odor, so no product coming through. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you, and done so many times in the past under previous administrations. And so my name's Evan Vickers. I serve in the state senate, currently represent District 28, which uniquely is not changing numbers during the redistricting. Senator Ipsen's and mine, I guess we're far enough, we're on the bottom end of the state, so ours didn't have to change. But I live in Cedar City. I serve, represent part of Washington County, which is now with the new redistricting process, most of it is Washington City. I do have some Laverton and Erkin, but not as much as I used to. All of Iron County, Beaver County. And then I now go up into Delta and Millard County, and then also the western side of Juab County. Interesting thing, you think about Juab County, you know, it's kind of a long, narrow county, and once you get west of Nephi, there's not many people out there. In my district, I got a lot of land mass. I got 80% of the land mass, and there's 104 people that are registered in there. So not many. But so I've been in the legislature 14 years. I served in the House for 4 years, and I've been in the Senate 10. And Senator Ipsen and I actually went into the House together, so that's how we actually first met. But my role the last 4 years has been as Senate Majority Leader. So I served in leadership, served with the president and all the rest of our leadership team. I've chaired many different committees. I've chaired higher education appropriations, health and human services, a number of different things. Of course, now in this role, I get to chair a number of different committees. I basically run our Republican caucus, so I'm responsible for setting up all those meetings and having, setting the agendas and running that. But I've been asked, the one thing I've learned as the Senate Majority Leader is that if I see my phone pop up and it says Stuart Adams, the President of the Senate, that usually means he's got something in mind for me to do. And so maybe the mayor's that way with you guys, I don't know. But so I get a lot of various responsibilities, been asked to head up some very difficult pieces of legislation and some challenging pieces of legislation, continue to do so. But the one thing I wanted to make sure that you as the council and your organization and your citizens are aware that myself as the legislator, as serving in this area, and the staff that we have available to us, we want to be a resource. And so let me give you an example. I was talking to the mayor just quickly about this. So the mayor of Leeds contacted me just recently, and they've got an issue they're trying to solve. They've got their main street is a state road, and they're trying to figure out how to put some storm drains in, and partnering with the Conservancy District and others, but they needed to know what resources that might be available. Well, he came and met with me and up in Cedar, and we talked. I reached out to our fiscal analyst's office, and within a day and a half, had an extensive list of opportunities that the city could use for funding and other resources. So those are that's just an example, but don't hesitate to reach out. There's some things there's some things we don't have resources for, but if there are things that you have questions or are even looking for resources, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us try to be a service to you. But let's see. I think it's been a great opportunity for me to serve. Met a lot of wonderful people along the way, and I served in the city council for 12 years in Cedar City, so I get it. I know you guys are kind of where the rubber meets the road. You're the ones on the ground doing the work, and so I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you do and how well you represent Washington City, and so congratulations. But I just, sometimes you don't understand that. I mean, sometimes we have, there's quite a few legislators that have served in another elected capacity, whether it be a city council, county commission, even a planning commission or something like that, school board. But there's an awful lot that don't. and that haven't. I think that number's kind of going down as I was talking to the League of Cities and Towns. I think the number that have served in another capacity is going down. We're seeing a lot more legislators now that haven't served previously. So it doesn't mean that they come in, shorthanded or anything like that. It just, there is a little bit of a learning curve, and sometimes it helps with local government experience. And I think that it really does help when it comes to understanding some of the challenges you might face. So, like I say, really thrilled to have the opportunity to serve, to represent you, and certainly open for any questions, Mayor, that you might have.
Council.
I appreciate what you do up there, and I appreciate you showing us the ropes in January when we came out, or was it February, somewhere there.
Yeah.
But it was really knowledgeable to see how you guys work, and we appreciate the work you do for us, and I appreciate the openness to say call me and reach out if you have a concern. So that means a lot to me that we can reach out to you and get our concerns as a city in front of you guys and see if we can figure out a solution on these things. So
Yeah, and I never assume anything, and so don't hesitate. Like I say, sometimes I know how it works. You get involved in trying to solve your issue, and you think, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And sometimes there are some other resources there you just don't know about.
So obviously this summer's been busy on the Hill, with legislators getting ready for their bills and to present them and finalize those. As those come forward for the 2023 legislative session, can you see anything that maybe we should know about at this point that would impact our city or our area here?
I am sure there's something out there.
I'm sure there's
It's just early in the process. So the first part of May is when legislators can start opening bill files. And the way the process works is, as a legislator, you can open a bill file on any one of those legislators, 104, can open a bill file on anything they want. You have priority bills, and so we've tried to change a little bit. So, for example, each House member has 4 priorities, each senator has 5, just because there's less of us. And if you use one of your priorities on a bill, then it automatically goes to the top of the list. The legislative analyst team, which is our attorneys, start right in and contact you and start drafting the bill. The name of the bill, the topic is available now, so you can go on and look. The details probably aren't there unless it's something that maybe was a committee bill from last year or something, so many haven't been drafted yet. But as those come forward, then you start seeing, Councilman Ivey, I'm not aware of anything yet, but we're going to have a lot of bills like we always do, and a lot of them don't have a lot of effect, but there are some that will, and some that I'm sure that will have concern for you, either positive or negative. So I would recommend that you can stay close to the League of Cities and Towns, and then they're really good to help keep us aware of things that are coming up too. So.
I was just going to share my appreciation for you as well. You've been very responsive when we've reached out, and we've become friends, and I do know that you're always in our corner and available to speak to, so I appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
As Councilman Coates said.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very kind of you.
Do you have any bills that you're going to be presenting this coming?
Do I personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got that one call from the president yet, but there's a couple that I am working on. So I'm working with a commission. So last year, we worked on the sales tax incentive bill. I worked with Representative Schultz on that bill. This year, we're working on government efficiency. And so we're actually engaged in a process of evaluating all of state government and how we can be more efficient, and also be less obtrusive on businesses and others in trying to go about their business. The Department of Commerce, Margaret Busey, who is the director of the Department of Commerce, they've engaged in on a couple of things. So one side, they've actually done some significant research on looking at regulations and how things are from state perspective, and what we can do to streamline. On the other side, they're also looking at licensing and looking at what licenses may or may not be needed, and if so, how can we do a better job of streamlining the process as far as regulation and supervision and oversight. I'm not sure if so Representative Moss, Jefferson Moss, and I are the chairs of that committee, that economic opportunity and efficiency. I'm not sure if there's going to be a bill come out of that. Most likely there will in some area, but I'm not sure what it's going to look like right now. We're just trying to evaluating. So there's a good possibility of that. For good or bad, I'm kind of stuck with medical cannabis. I get to handle a lot of those bills.
Is it the pharmacist in you?
No, it really isn't. I have to admit, I was dead set against when we first started that, and then I made the mistake one time. So Senator Mark Madsen had run a medical cannabis bill, and it was pretty, in my mind, it was quite close to recreational, and I'm just not going there. I'm not interested in that. And it was defeated, and Representative Brad Daw came over to me, and we were close friends and did a lot of things. He says, "Don't you think there's a better way to do this?" And I wasn't very smart. I said yes. And so ever since then, I've been engaged. And it seems like all my partners have kind of gone by the wayside. Greg Hughes and I did the first original bill. He's gone. And then Francis Gibson took over, and Brad Daw, and then he left the legislature. Francis Gibson, then he left. Joel Ferry, and now he's leaving. So, and Representative Walt Brooks now is actually going to help. So we have some other legislators engaged in that process, but I end up, for one thing or another, I'm kind of the last man standing as far as the original people working on that. So I end up dealing with a lot of those. We're still looking at seeing if we're on the emergency powers side. We did that significant remake with SB 195 a couple of years ago, and it's held its course, and it's held true, and it's played out. We'll look and see if we need to make any additional corrections. Right now, probably not, but we're also looking at a couple of other pieces of legislation that could help businesses and streamline businesses. So those are things I'm personally working on. I don't run, you won't see my name on 30 bills. You'll see me probably in the 8 to 12 range. And some of those take a lot of time. Some of them don't take as much time. Some other legislators will, pride themselves on running a lot of bills. That's not me. I try to run some good policy discussions and the ones that I can manage and handle. So anything you want me to run? A lot of bills start from, to be
I am
honest with
curious
you, a lot of bills start
about
from constituents.
what will happen with, I followed Brooks's bill, the HB 60. I'm kind of curious. It kind of got held up, it seems. I'm just wondering if you feel like what will happen with that bill.
Yeah, my understanding that he has and you'll have to talk to Representative Brooks about it, but my understanding that he has had some conversations with the governor, and that'll probably come back. So, yeah.
Well, Senator, we feel very fortunate to have you representing us on the Hill. You're not only well respected, but you're effective and responsive. I know that during the session, the times that I called you, and sometimes even late at night, you responded very quickly and really were listening to the needs of Washington and the concerns of our residents. So we just want to express our gratitude and our appreciation for your service. We appreciate you taking the time to drive down from Cedar and spend a few minutes with us. It's been very worthwhile for us. So thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward. We've got some new legislators in our Sunshine Caucus coming up, and so I look forward to working with them and being assistance in any way I possibly can with them as well. But seriously, I guess for good or bad, because of my leadership role and where, my length of stay in the legislature, I pretty well know who to go ask. So, I probably don't know the answer to your question, but I know who to go ask. So don't hesitate to ask.
And Councilman Martins has got just a little Washington City pin for you.
Oh, thanks.
All right, Utah Representative Colin Jack. It sounds pretty good to say that, doesn't it? Representative Jack.
Yeah, thank you. Well, just by way of introduction, you've met me before. I'm Colin Jack, and on June 1st, I was elected by the Washington County Republican Party Central Committee to finish Travis Siegmiller's term when Representative Siegmiller moved out of the county. So this year, for the remainder of 2022, starting July 2nd, I'm the state representative in District 62, which is the old district that then goes away January when it becomes District 73. And then at the end of June, June 27th, I won the primary election to be the representative for District 73, which is nearly the same as 62, starting for 23 and 24. So I'll be with you for at least 2.5 years. But and the predominance of my district is Washington City. So hopefully you all understand that, you know, my heart is here, and anytime you need something, I think you all have my personal cell number. You can give me a call. The legislature was out of session in July. They took the month off, including me, even though my term started July 2nd. They were off, and so meetings will start again. I'll have meetings next week and then 2 weeks after that. But because I was elected in June, they did invite me to go sit in on meetings in June as an invited representative-elect. And several topics were discussed, which will turn into bills of some sort. And like Senator Vickers said, of course, there will be a lot of bills, but some of the ones that I pay the closest attention to have to do with energy, since that's my day job as the Chief Operating Officer of Dixie Power. And as I watch across the energy sector, one of the things I really want to make sure, and what got me involved in politics 15 years ago, is not wanting Utah to become another California, or in this case, also becoming another Texas, right? We can look at California and say, well, that's easy to avoid because they've made every mistake, but they're Democrats, and so that's easy. But Texas are Republicans, right? So Republicans make bad energy decisions too. And just this month, as I was watching, Texans went all in on wind. They have 35,000 megawatts of wind, and in their peak in July, 600 megawatts was generating. So the thing to know about wind is when you need it, it's not there. It's a lot like solar. When you need it, it's not there. And so their prices spiked. Their wholesale price spiked to 20 times the normal value, right? To $2,000 a megawatt hour. So those of you who are, I don't know who's over Washington City's power department.
Well, he's in the back corner back there, and then Councilman Coates oversees the board, but yeah.
Yeah. So 20 times. So take your power bill for July, multiply it by 20. If you were in Texas, that's what you could have expected.
Hey, don't let that happen, okay?
We do not want that to happen in Utah. So we're watching that. And while we have our federal delegation here, some of the things that we're also watching with the federal delegation is there's called an ozone transportation rule, OTR. I thought it was over the road truckers, but no, ozone transportation rule, which means that coal-fired generation in Wyoming and Utah, if any ozone comes out of that and blows across to Denver, Colorado, they figure that some has blown over there, and maybe Denver's ozone layer has gone up by 1% due to Wyoming and Utah. And so now the current administration wants to shut down all coal-fired generation in Utah and Wyoming to reduce Denver's ozone layer by 1%. Well, what does that do for us for electricity? What, wind and solar, which we already saw in Texas doesn't work, in California doesn't work. Right, so we've got our work ahead of us to protect and defend our borders and make sure that we have reliable and affordable energy here in Utah. So as a professional electrical engineer and as a newly elected representative, I'm going to be putting all of my weight behind some of those projects, as well as whatever committees I get assigned. I've been told it's kind of like putting in your papers for a mission. You can request what committees you want to serve on, but they're going to pick for you. So I've said, hey, how about natural resources and energy and technology, public utilities? And they said,
Just give them a list that's all in your wheelhouse. You're bound to get one or two of those.
Yeah. And so they said, well, we'll let you know. So anyway, that's kind of the 5-minute version. I could give you the 2-hour version, but I'm open to questions if
Questions
anybody
for
wants to talk
Representative
about
Jack.
more stuff.
I have questions. We'll look to see how great you do on the Hill. So
Thank you. All right.
Quick question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've had the pleasure of working with you a little bit in the Republican Party, and we appreciate your service there and now as our representative. So is it true that you are as far as you know, the only electrical engineer that is a state elected legislator?
As far as I know, I'm the only elected electrical engineer. When I was in the committee meetings in June, I spoke to another representative, two other representatives came up to me and said, hey, I'm an engineer too. One was an environmental engineer and one was a civil engineer. So now there would be, out of the short survey I took in the majority caucus luncheon, 3 engineers, so one civil, one environmental, I'll be the electrical engineer.
I think your experience and training will serve well.
Thank you. Yeah. So,
Representative Jack, I don't
Yes.
think we can let you go without at least a comment when you get to the legislature. You and I have had the conversation about government closest to the people is the most effective and represents people. So I think we've had the discussion, but sometimes the legislature wants to put a one-size-fits-all approach onto problems that they see out there, and I know that affects cities and affects Dixie Power and other
Yeah.
entities quite substantially. So we appreciate that you'll be responsive and listening to the issues that we have. But we like to call it a one-size-fits-none approach, and we understand that in Southern Utah, if everyone gets together on the Wasatch Front and decides what the solution should be, usually it's the opposite that helps us out and makes sense for us. So we appreciate you, and thanks for that.
good, and thank you. And yeah, by all means, if you see bills coming through, and hopefully none of those would be mine, but if you see bills coming through that are pushing one size fits none, let me know. If I'm already not opposing it, let me know, and I want to work on that. I met with the Washington County Commissioners yesterday. The Sunshine Caucus met with them, and they were telling us about the county problems, right? Washington County is of a class 2 category. There's only one class 1, which is Salt Lake County, and then the other big counties, which includes Washington County, but Utah County and some of those Davis counties, the other big counties. Well, now Washington County is lumped in with those big Wasatch Front counties, and we're more of a rural need, but of an urban size and a population size. So the county's feeling the same thing, the cities are feeling the same thing. So my expectation is that I would remain sensitive to that, but I would look forward to feedback and input from my friends down here to keep me aware of things that may not be immediately obvious to me in the fog of war. Thank you.
Further thoughts, questions? And just in finishing here, thank you for letting us have the meeting down in your conference room
Yeah.
a few months back. That was really nice of you. And there's no doubt that power and water are among the highest priorities for this area and for everywhere. And so we appreciate your expertise. A lot of people don't know that about half of Washington City south of the Virgin River is on Dixie Power, and we run our own utility north of the Virgin River. So we appreciate you looking out for our interests there. And then also we just hope that you can be open-minded and supportive of that of the water infrastructure and that reuse project that we'll need to work on collectively.
Absolutely. And I'm keeping a list, and I added it to my list.
I'll only call you every other day about that one, okay?
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Thank you, Representative Jack.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll wear this on my jacket when I.
Thank you. And then just before we move on to item number 3, I just saw Representative-elect Joseph Elison. Actually, hold on a second. He is not Representative-elect yet, but he did win the Republican primary, and so he'll move on to the general election. But Joseph, would you just take a minute and just come up and say hello, introduce yourself, and tell us a little about you and how you anticipate serving if you win that general election.
Sure. Thanks for having me. As you know, this was a huge landslide victory. It was such a wide gap, right?
We didn't have to go to toes, right? We were able to count on fingers. Is that right?
That's right. No, I very much respect Willie Billings and the race that we just completed. I have a lot of work ahead of me to earn the confidence and support of half of my constituents, because half of them voted for him. And so I look forward to serving them and being a part of the solution in bringing the Republican Party back together again here and getting behind a Republican candidate. We still have to face a Democrat in the fall. And so we're going to be working very hard to make sure that we come out on top in that race, but looking forward to serve all of you and this entire district.
And so your district 72.
Yes.
And Representative Jack is 73. And so I think you'll share Washington City, which, initially I thought maybe it would be better in redistricting if we had just one, but I think 2 is better than 1, especially if your hearts are here in Dixie. And I think they are. So
absolutely, we love it. Yeah, I live in the big booming metropolis of Tokerville. We're about to.
You might not be the only person from Tokerville in this room.
No, we're not. My dear friend here, yes. Anyway, so Tokerville's about ready to see a big surge in growth that some of us wish it could stay a little bit more rural. But anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to serve. It's going to be a great opportunity. And in fact, I don't know, just a little thought I found actually just Sunday, a great-great-grandfather of mine served on the House of Representatives in 1861 in the state of Utah. And I did not know that because that route came from Idaho. So kind of cool. But I'm excited to serve.
Well, we have all the confidence in the world in you, and we're hopeful that you can move on and be that representative for a large portion of our residents here.
Yeah, for sure.
And thanks for making the time to come over. I know that was a little last minute with me calling you, but I appreciate you doing that.
Oh, of course. Do anything for you guys. Just holler anytime. Same thing that Representative Jack said. If you ever have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'll do my very best. I'm a texter. So if you want me and my attention the quickest, that's the best way for you to reach me is through text. But email, phone, anything. Happy to respond. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you. And I think we've got a little pin for you too.
Oh, thanks.
Item number 3 is a St. George Regional Hospital update with our friends Mitch Cloward, Terry Draper, and Cindy Gilbert. Good to see you again, Mitch.
Good to see you too. You mentioned the word winning, and I understand there was a pretty big football game recently, and I need to congratulate Washington City. So
I'm not going to lie, there is a big trophy in my office now, but
that's a pretty big deal. We hope you don't need the.
They're going to come present it at the next meeting. Who's talking trash, right?
Congratulations are in order, and if those games are still held in the heat of the summer, just remember the hospital's ready to take care of needs. I want to thank Cress and Jordan. You were with Jordan. We recently had the opportunity to have breakfast together, and
great morning.
It was great, and Cress really outlined the vision for Washington City. I think it was inspirational and one that we support. So, thank you. It's always good to talk about healthcare, and I think I can't think of anything more important or many things more important than our health. And so I think the most important message that I can share this evening is make time to take care of yourselves. There's a lot of stress. This isn't the only job that many of you have, and there's nothing more important than your health. So for everyone here representing the hospital, please make a commitment to take care of your own health. There's a lot we can do to prevent ourselves from having to go to the hospital. So I wanted to also just, Cindy Gilbert is our chairman of our hospital board, and she's going to give our annual hospital update. So I just wanted to give a brief background about her. She's a real fun person. She's dynamic, but so just a little bit about her background. She's an attorney. She's legal counsel for Utah Iron Mine west of Cedar City. She's legal counsel for Gilbert Development, Crusher Rental and Sells. She and her husband Steve own Diamond G Rodeo, where they breed and clone rodeo bucking bulls. So the fun facts about her, I'm surprised she hasn't been in the hospital, but she was the first.
Other than the boardroom.
Yeah, right. There you go. The boardroom. She's there a lot. She was the first female flank person in the PRCA. She's flanked over 20,000 animals. That's impressive. She also holds an arena record for a high mark bull ride in the NFR. So pretty cool stuff. And she's going to share with you our annual hospital update. And I'm getting texts to get back to the hospital for some meetings. So I'll stay as long as I can before I have to jet back to the hospital. But thank you so much. We support you. Grateful for Washington City. We've been serving this county since 1976, and it's a privilege. And any future plans with healthcare hospitals, we want to be collaborative and supportive because it's a privilege to care for members of this community. So thank you.
Appreciate you, Mitch. And don't forget a pen.
Hey, yeah.
And we appreciate how you do as the hospital administrator.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here. Like I say, Joseph Elison grew up across the street from me. And so any of you that don't know him, if he wins in the fall, which I assume he will, you will have a real treat in store. And I think he'll work really well with you. So anyway, hospital is, for me, is preventative. I like to do preventative law, preventative medicine. And as I fly over your beautiful city every week, and we do a lot of, Gilbert Development does a lot of asphalt grading and paving. We're almost done with Brio. I don't know what the name of on Telegraph Road where all the apartments, and I don't know if they're condos or apartments, but as I see that, as it's gone up, I mean, we no sooner get the dirt work done and it's being built. So it's been a pleasure to be part of the growth and beautification of Washington City. So we're very pleased to have that. But St. George Regional Hospital in the last year has provided $23 million in charity care. That's not bad debt, but that's over 20,000 visits for people with medical issues that they can't afford to pay for. And as a nonprofit, that is quite a bit for a small community. But as you've seen, when, I don't know how many of you have grown up here, but when this was first, when Dave Jepson first came here to meet with Murray Webb, it was just a small local hospital. And with a handshake and a promise, they created the opportunity for life-saving positions. And so we have a Trauma 2 care center, and what we want to do is keep you out of the hospital and make sure that your life is situated in such a way that you don't have to go to the hospital. And so Lexi got somebody's queued up the video. I don't know who.
They can hear you. So does Steve have it?
There we go. Do that, and then let's see if you have any questions.
We're thinking about just getting a clapper. You know, it works for the lights. It should work for the.
Well, they said Lexi, and I said no Lexi here, and I was a little nervous, and it was like nobody can do it like a video can, because there's some amazing people that my brother went to medical school. I went to law school. The terminology is totally different, but I think you'll enjoy that. And if we can answer any questions at the end, we'd love to do that.
Perfect.
But thank you for
just
letting
say
us come.
go when you're ready for it to start.
We're ready.
In 1976,
there was an amazing act. That act was a handshake between two great individuals who had a lot of integrity. That act was performed quietly and without ceremony. Each individual represented their organization in a way that would shape the future of healthcare. And no one could have known that it was a handshake and a promise that would define healthcare for our region.
In the early part of 1976, we'd been just about a year in getting Intermountain Healthcare started. I was told that an investor-owned company had come down and been talking to the county commissioners here. And when I came down, I said, I understand you guys are thinking about selling the hospital. He said, we don't want to ever go through another major hospital project like we've just been through. It's just drained us. We need to build a new prison. We've got some streets and bridges that need to be repaired. And this other company has offered us several $1 million. And we thought we ought to come down and just see what you'd be willing to do with us and whether or not you'd be an option we ought to look at too. Told them about our mission statement, how we felt about the employees and how we valued them, and how determined we were to keep costs as low as possible and really work hard on quality and try to make this system really become one of great reputation. And so that's what I bring you, gentlemen. And this is probably going to be bad news for you, but let me just ask you, do you have any debt on this hospital you've just built? And they said, yes, we've got a bond that we've got to pay off. All I can offer you is everything that you have put into the hospital, including the unpaid debt. We'll take the balance sheet for the hospital alone, but we will not take the balance sheet, for what you're needed for our prisoner bridges. But I thought that's the end of that conversation. And finally, I got a call not too many days later, and they said, we thought over what you've shared with us, and we want you to come. But if you're going to do it, they've got to have some assurances. And Murray Webb said, how do we know that you're not going to come down here and just be a laid-back organization? And I said, well, I can give you every assurance that we'll do what's needed here for the community. We'll bend over backwards to meet those needs. When I came down, Murray said, are you willing to promise me, Mr. Jepson, that you will expand the services, or keep the quality and keep the cost as low as possible? And I said, absolutely. He said, you just acquired a hospital. And I said, that's great. And we'll keep the promises.
Now here we are, half century later, and we have world-class healthcare. We have lived true to the promise of becoming a model healthcare organization. Independent national media like U.S. News and World Report and Newsweek rank St. George at the top.
At St. George Regional Hospital, we have really grown a very comprehensive and robust cardiovascular program here. This includes what's termed structural heart. Essentially what that is what was traditionally reserved for open heart surgeries. Many of these patients now can have much more minimally invasive approaches. Other metrics that we look at when we're measuring our success of how well we're taking care of our patients in the community is how often you're having to come back into the hospital. So we look at readmission rates. And in each one of these categories, we're well below the national average for readmission rates. When somebody comes into the hospital, we typically have a short period of time to actually get into their heart. We're considerably and significantly better at doing that as far as time to floor to balloon time than the rest of the country. When we look at the national averages.
Here in Southern Utah, we're doing amazing things with stroke. We have excellent stroke care here at St. George Regional Hospital. We are a Joint Commission certified primary stroke center. Once again, the American Heart Association has recognized us for top stroke care. In stroke care, time is brain. When a patient comes to our hospital, we work really hard to make sure that they get the treatment they need quickly. We are well below the goal times for imaging and treatment for stroke care, and we provide that care extremely quickly. At our hospital, we have capabilities to care for stroke patients that aren't available at other hospitals in the area. If I had a family member who had a stroke, this is where I'd want them to come.
In neurosurgery, we offer amazing care for our brain and spine patients. With neuro-oncology, we have been the first center to offer intraoperative MRI so that we can actually have an MRI scan of the patient's brain, especially with tumors, during surgery. We also are the only center that uses gliolin, which is immunofluorescence, where I'm able to see tumor tissue versus brain tissue while I'm doing the operation. And that allows me to be more successful in actually removing the brain tumor, which improves treatment. We're also a spine center of excellence for cervical and lumbar spine surgery and have been for the last 6 years. We've received multiple national awards, and I'm proud to be part of a team that offers the very best in brain and spine.
The Women and Newborn Program at St. George Regional Hospital offers comprehensive services, including a 24/7 pediatric lifestyle service, 24/7 neonatal lifestyle service, a simply urgent option for women who want to have a low intervention delivery, and a pediatric hospitalist team that's available 24/7 to take care of children in the hospital. This team has led to really great outcomes, including a C-section rate lower than the national average, early elective delivery rate lower than the national average, which decreases the likelihood that baby might end up in the neonatal intensive care unit. Additionally, we have an extremely low central line infection rate, with only one central line infection in the last 11 years. We couldn't do anything we do without the incredible people working here. We don't do this for us. We do this for you. We do this for our community. We do this for our families.
Young people entering the field of medicine today will see and do amazing things. We're a national leader in precision genomics right here from St. George, Utah. It's remarkable to consider all that's evolved from a handshake and a promise.
Someday, if I'm ever put on the witness stand, by Murray Webb or any of his ancestry, I'm going to have no trouble at all saying, we more than kept the promise.
We knew Washington County was going to grow. We just didn't know how fast. And so we're very grateful to have the opportunity to have the various specialties here. Any questions?
As you think about healthcare in Washington City going into the future, please feel free to reach out to us and include us in those conversations about what you see for healthcare. Maybe we haven't been looking at things the right way for Washington City. So don't forget us as potential partners. So, okay.
No, we really appreciate it. It's a pretty amazing story. And we're grateful for all that you do for our citizens and for the way that you communicate throughout the community and the service you provide. It's really good to have you here, and it's good to have you here too, Terry. Do we not get to hear from you as well? Okay.
This is in the background, as always.
Thank you, Chair Gilbert and Councilman. If you wouldn't mind just making sure that all three of them have one of those. We appreciate you. You're welcome to stay. You don't have to. So sounds good. Okay. Next on our agenda is St. George Orthodox Christian Mission Introduction. We have Father Thomas Hernandez here, and if you wouldn't mind coming forward and taking about 5 minutes or so, we'd appreciate that.
Well, good evening. I guess it's the evening time. Thank you, Mayor Stahelli, for inviting me here. I gave a presentation, I guess maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, to the Coral Canyon HOA about a building, church building that we are working on. And so I emailed the mayor a few weeks ago. Our metropolitan was coming to visit, and I asked him if he would be able to come. He wasn't able to come, but he asked me to come and just introduce myself to the council. So thanks for having me. When I was in college, there were a couple things you weren't supposed to talk about: politics and religion. So
we're breaking all the rules
about
tonight.
Politics. I'll talk a little bit about religion. So if any of you don't know what the Orthodox Church is, I know in these necks of the woods, it might seem a little bit unfamiliar. The Orthodox Christian Church is the second largest body of Christian churches in the world, second to the Roman Catholic Church. And we are the oldest, the most ancient form of Christianity today. And our own patriarchate here that my church is under is the Patriarchate of Antioch, which, if you remember, or maybe you're familiar with the book of Acts, the Christians were first called Christian in Antioch, and St. Peter was the first bishop of Antioch. And so we exist under the Patriarchate of Antioch. I was ordained by a bishop who was ordained all the way back to St. Peter. So that's a little bit of an introduction about Orthodox Christian Church. This particular mission here in St. George was started about 3 years ago, 2019, by a friend of mine who's the priest up at St. Xenia Orthodox Church in Payson, Utah. There was a recent article in the Salt Lake Tribune, I don't know, maybe some of you saw it, where after the Metropolitan came here, we all went up and he consecrated a beautiful church up there in Payson, Utah. So you can, I don't know, Google if you're interested in checking out the article in the Salt Lake Tribune. But I was moved here about 10 months ago from the deep depths of Mordor, Southern California.
That's pretty accurate.
So we came up here in September of last year, my family and I. I've been married for 18 years. I have 9 children with 2 twin girls on the way. So big family. Which is actually common to this area. I don't feel like an alien going to Costco. Yeah. It's amazing all sorts of the comments people make to you. So we've been here since 2019, and I was assigned, the church was big enough to be able to support a full-time priest, and so I was assigned here in September, and so I've been here for about 10 months, and it's a beautiful place. I really like it. It's very clean, no graffiti. I mean, I grew up in Southern California in the heart of the Inland Empire, so lots of graffiti, lots of trash. So it's, although it is home. We are hoping to build a beautiful church in the Coral Canyon area. There was before I was assigned, they had purchased a 3-acre plot that I guess had gone unused for a variety of different reasons, but we were able to purchase it, and we plan on building what I hope will be the most beautiful building in the county and the most beautiful building in the state. So I did want to show you, I'm not sure, maybe some of you have seen some of those pictures. I do know that the architect who we're working with, Dennis Patton, maybe some of you might know Dennis, did give a particular presentation to the city planning here. I'm not sure who's on that particular committee, but that was, I don't know, 5-6 months ago. So we are planning on building, I'll show you the kind of like, I don't know. This is a classic Byzantine structure. So this particular church that the designer who lives in South Carolina, he's a man by the name of Andrew Gold. He got his designing degree from the University of Pennsylvania. Really fantastic designer. We decided to model this particular church after a basilica in Ephesus, St. John's Basilica in Ephesus. So if you're interested in looking at it, you can just Google St. John's Basilica in Ephesus. We're modeling this particular church after that. Another picture here. It's a picture from the side. And there's a picture here from the Arcaded Plaza area. And then the interior, I only had one picture of the interior. I'm not sure, has anyone here ever been to an Orthodox church? Yeah. So we're really hoping to, get forward on that. I'm in work with Andrew, trying to get the designs finished so we can give it to Dennis, so we can come and get working with the city of Washington here to build this beautiful church. I'm really excited. I feel a little bit overwhelmed because I don't know anything about any of this. I was a public school educator before I became a priest, and so I could talk education and all of that, but dealing with cities and all of this sort of thing is very new to me. So it's a learning process for me, and but I'm really excited to get to be able to do that. For those of you who don't know where we currently are, we're currently just right down the road here, next to the Texas Roadhouse. There's a little strip mall there. We're leasing a space in there. So that's who I am. This is St. George Orthodox Church. St. George, after the trophy bearer and great martyr who was martyred under Diocletian at the end of the 3rd century.
I think that goes without saying. I mean, we all assumed that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing.
I don't, sometimes it's confusing because I even talk to my Orthodox friends, priest friends, or people I meet, and they know I live here in St. George now, and they're like, well, what's the name of the church? Oh, it's St. George. St. George.
Well,
Which is actually, there was a moratorium on St. George's because St. George is, one of the most popular saints in the world, the patron saint of England, patron saint of the country of Georgia. If you were to look on a map of Orthodox churches in this country, there are so many St. George's. So it's still kind of funny that people.
Well, we could go with St. Washington if you want. But there's just a couple of points, and I'll open up to the council. One, you make a difference in the profession, in the mission that you've chosen. And 2, it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful building. And I could tell the other night that it was well received by the neighbors out there in Coral Canyon.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about that, after watching the guy from Coal West kind of.
Yeah, we've seen Coal West and
heard the grunts,
the neighbors
and I was
out
like,
there.
oh no,
we were not
we
surprised.
get tarred and feathered.
Council, questions for Father Hernandez?
I just had a question. Is the funding in place then for the church? So it's really a matter of just getting it approved through the city and you can begin
so
construction?
the funding for the most part is in place. So one of our parishioners is quite wealthy, and so which is actually most mission churches aren't able to afford a priest with so many kids. So I don't really see a problem with the funding at all.
That's great. And when do you meet? When are your meeting times?
So our services, we have services. I mean, you could visit our website, and I always kind of update stgorthodox.org. But we have the Divine Liturgy Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock. There's a morning prayer service before that called Orthros, which starts at 9 o'clock. That's every week. So 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, Divine Liturgy. But we also have evening prayers. So I'm not sure if you are familiar with the more liturgical tradition. We have Vespers on Saturday night at 5 o'clock. And I actually serve Vespers just about every single day. And I try to serve liturgy on Saturdays, Saturday mornings as well. So
assuming we know nothing about Orthodox Christian Church, and we don't want Councilman Ivy to be the only one who's ever attended one, which would you recommend for someone to visit?
Oh, I would recommend coming Sunday morning at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
You're going to be a great addition to our community. I'm really excited about it. So that's a beautiful building.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's also nice to be in a state that doesn't want to go down. So.
Well, we have good elected officials here, right? So we're in good shape that way.
Right.
Anything else you'd like to share with us, Father?
No. Do you have anyone else have any other questions about the church, myself?
Maybe just on your location, is the assumption correct that if you establish your building in Coral Canyon that you'll exit the current location?
Correct. Yeah, we actually also own a property in downtown St. George that we're looking to sell. They had bought the property initially as like a little shoebox, kind of behind the current temple, Mormon temple there. We still own the property. We're looking to sell it, but we just outgrew that. I mean, it was really small. And so we're in a much bigger space. This is 2,400 square feet. This particular building is going to be about 5,000 square feet.
Well, let us know when you're ready to break ground, and we'll be out there and and help you do it right.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. If you all have any questions, feel free. You can email me, call me.
Maybe
Text
another
me.
historical question.
Yeah.
On the Orthodox, is this the same Orthodox church that Vladimir Putin is a member of?
Yeah, so we're all in communion in terms of one another. So there are a variety of different patriarchates. And so you have the Patriarchate of Antioch. They're classic five, right? There's Antioch, Rome, Jerusalem, Alexandria, and Constantinople, right? We are not the largest. The largest is the Russian Patriarchate now. And the Russian Patriarchate actually didn't come about until 11th, 12th century. But when Saint Vladimir actually converted the entire Slavic nation, the reason, at least that's given historically, is the beauty of the church temple and the beauty of the divine services. So,
Interesting.
Thank you.
all right, thanks.
Call for a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
Motion by Henderson,
Second.
second by Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned until our regular meeting at 6 o'clock. I think we're just a little on the other side of 6, actually. We had our federal and state legislators here at our last meeting presenting, and so I think we had a lot of conversation after that meeting, a lot of good conversation, but I think the council's making their way back to the chambers here. Okay, I think we've got enough here for a quorum. So welcome to Washington City Council meeting. We're here at Washington City Hall. Today is July 27th. We're just after 6 p.m. This is our regular meeting, which is also being broadcast live via YouTube at washingtoncity.org/meetings. We will start this meeting with an invocation, and Deanna Martin from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will offer that invocation.
Just wanted to mention that I'm a member of the St. George Area Interfaith Council. Please pray with me. Father in heaven, we're grateful this day to live in this wonderful country, and we're grateful this day to live in this wonderful area. We pray for these good people who have volunteered their time to serve the surrounding area. We pray for them that they will have wisdom and compassion and inspiration from thee as they make decisions regarding their area. We're so grateful for this rain that's been bestowed upon us, Heavenly Father. And we thank thee for these things and give thee thanks and praise in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Sister Martin. We appreciate your service along with Brother Martin with the Interfaith Council and the leadership that you offer. It's just been a wonderful addition to our council meetings to have different congregations come and pray and share their faith with us. So we really appreciate you. I have asked Councilman Kurt Ivey to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please stand? Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do not have need for a closed session tonight. I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
A motion by Coates.
Second.
Second by Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Item 2 is announcements. So we have a few exciting things tonight. We have some guests here. I don't know, maybe a lot of you noticed that there was the first annual Mayor's Cup flag football game. And that consisted of the mayor and police chief from here in Washington, and then the mayor and police chief of the city of St. George. We were the head coach and assistant coach, and then the Money Good organization with Devin Osborne, his leadership, his vision on this. He was able to select players from the community, athletes and post-athletes, current athletes, along with representatives. We had, I think, 4 police officers and 2 firefighters. So we had a great cross-section of the community. I think the city of St. George had the same. But I will, before I tell you how that game turned out, it's probably not a big secret, but before I tell you how that game turned out, I just wanted to, I invited some of my friends that I met during that game. I invited them to come and introduce themselves to the council. And then Devin Osborne, he was going to share a little bit about his organization and maybe share a little bit about the outcome of the game. Anyway, if you would please come forward. If you just tell us your name and where you're from, and a little bit about the celebrity reason why you were part of this game. Go ahead, Xavier.
Okay. How you guys doing? I'm Xavier Smith. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. Came to the game. Dev gave me a call about 2 weeks ago. He said he needed me out here. And when Dev called and said he needed me, I'm gonna come for my guy. He does a lot for me. He does a lot for the community. So I was here supporting him. And my role in the game was making sure our MVP was hydrated. He stayed off his feet so he can go in and make the plays for us to win the game. And yeah, that was my role. And he got us the dub, man.
All right, Beckham, or should I say Ringer?
Hi, my name is Beckham Nielsen. I'm from here. I go to Horizon Elementary, and I came to the celebrity game because I was a part of the football camp, and I just wanted to go have fun.
Hey, Beckham, tell us how old you are.
10.
10 years old. So from the camp that they put on before the celebrity game, they picked the top 2 players from the camp. And so obviously Beckham was ours. And we had Coach Paul Peterson, Utah Tech head coach, former Boston College QB who threw for almost 500 yards against Notre Dame in the pocket. But he seemed to find a favorite target early and often. Beckham, tell us a little bit about your stat line.
200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Not too shabby. We thought that was going to Xavier, but before he was in the game, you were already racking up the stats.
It's a tough act to follow, but I'm Darius Nash. I'm from Los Angeles, and part of Team Money Good with Dev. We teach budgeting, saving, and investing. I'm the savings team captain. So that's my role in the celebrity game. I didn't play, I would have been too good, but but it was just a good experience seeing the officials and like city law enforcement play, because like being an athlete, you get to the same speech every year. You're more than just a regular civilian. You hold to a higher standard, and just like you guys, people look at you as a higher standard, and seeing that you guys are just like us and we all got along and had a good time was great to see. So that was a great experience, and appreciate you guys for being a part of what we're trying to do here.
Well, you were fantastic. It was wonderful to have you on the sideline with us. And tell us a little bit about your background with sports and athletics.
Yeah, so I play everything, but mainly football. I play defensive back. This will be my senior year. Me and Dev have been here since it was Dixie, and just being a part of this transition in St. George and Washington has been great. So plan to just continue to.
So you'll play again this year?
Yeah, this will be my last season.
Fantastic.
Make sure you guys come out.
We'll be
September
there.
10th, first home game.
We'll be there. I happen to know a councilman who's on that athletic board, and he doesn't miss a game. So.
There we go.
Hi, how's everybody doing? My name is Steve Ashby. I'm also from Los Angeles, California. I'm also part of the Team Money Good process, teaching the kids about financial literacy. I've been here for about 6 months, and it's just been very welcoming being here. There's a very embracing community, Washington and St. George, both of you guys, and I just love it here so far, and I'm glad I got the chance to meet everybody.
We're glad you're here. Thank you so much. Hey, you're welcome to move that mic up as high as it goes.
I mean, if I knew Kurt was going to be here, I would have probably came with some more prizes or anything like that. This is my guy, Kurt.
I'll get those later.
There you go. But I'm Devin Osborne. I'm a senior at Utah Tech University. Play football there as well with D Nash and Steve, and I played with X a couple years ago too. And I kind of came up with this idea when we were doing the football camp. I was like, we might as well kind of end off the summer with a big community event. I've been good friends with Mayor Randall for a couple years, and then I happened to end up running to Mayor Staley, who's our neighbor, when I was passing out our soccer flyers, and just kind of came up with a big idea. We should do like a crosstown rivalry of this flag football game. I know they're big football fans. He's coached some of our players like Screech and stuff like that. Michelle Randall, her nephew's on the team, Max Christensen. It was like kind of a cool idea and kind of came about. and they were both excited, talking a lot of trash. I told them both.
All in good fun. I
Yeah,
mean-
all in good fun for sure. And I know Coach Peterson was all riled up and stuff like that, so it kind of came out to be a good event. Washington City ended up winning 42-28. Coach Peterson threw for 6 touchdowns. Beck was making plays. Steve had a big pick. A couple other guys and stuff like that. Even a couple of the police officers were making a lot of plays and it was fun. But I started an organization back in August of 2021 called Money Good, which we teach college athletes how to budget, save, and invest, because we see financial literacy is not really taught to a lot of us, and we get a lot of scholarship money. We have to divvy up to pay rent, pay for bills, and things like that. But we have a lot of friends that kind of just splurge on different things, and they end up at the end of the semester with no money. And I kind of seen that as a big problem. We should take it upon ourselves to kind of fix it instead of looking at other people. So we came up with that, and now we have over 28 athletes representing the organization. We have one from University of Wisconsin, a couple from other out-of-state schools, and then we have 24 representing right here at Utah Tech. We actually have Austin Staley on our team as well, so it's pretty cool to have that hometown feel. But it's been nothing but fun living in St. George and Washington, now moving into Washington. I'm a proud resident of Washington, and thank you guys so much. And thank you for your participation in the game, and we have this great trophy we want to present to you guys right here.
All right, let's do it, Council. Let's come down. We'll get it. We'll have him present the trophy to all of us, and then we'll get a couple pictures.
I don't know if you can lift this. It's kind of heavy.
You guys now. Okay, I can take one more. We need my assistant coach and police chief up here and fire chief. We gotta come on up. Come on up. Yeah, I think we can hold the air. That'll be. Here we go. Let's do it like that. Here we go.
There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you. Always. Chief. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. It's great.
I'm Xavier. I'm Kim. Nice to meet you guys.
I gotta come see that in your office too.
Well, right now, I think we're gonna leave it right here by Councilman Martinson. Oh boy. It can be well seen. The first annual went to Washington.
So I have a little funny story about that, Mayor. So I was over at St. George City for work over at their council meeting, and they had a little break, and they invited me to the back. And all of a sudden, all the police officers were like, "Oh, there's Councilman Coates. Be quiet." And they're like, "Oh, we're talking about the football game," and they had to be quiet because I was in the room thinking I was going to feed you guys information, even though I wasn't a part of it. So it was quite funny. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but at the time I had to laugh and be like, "Really? You think I'm going to go feed him?" And I would have if I would have got any information out of him.
It was a great event. All right. Moving on. We have a group in the back that needs to come to the front. Washington City All-Stars Junior Baseball Team recently won the State of Utah Tournament. Washington City is pleased to announce, I'm going to hold off on that. Before I give the announcement, what I'd like to do is if each of you would just state your name and then the position you play. Coaches at the back, we'll talk to Coach a little bit, and then we've got a little something for you guys, okay? All right, go ahead.
Hopefully you guys are all doing well. My name's Ezra Llewellyn, and I play catcher.
All right, Ezra.
I'm Jarek Wilson, and I play first base.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Mitchell, and I play center field.
I'm Tristan Sylvester, and I play third.
I'm Genevieve Evans. I play shortstop. I'm Jay Stetson, and I play outfield.
I'm Eamon Johansson. I also play outfield.
I'm Wade Evans. I play it all.
Coach, tell us about this team. Tell us about this ride to the state championship.
Well, first off, it's a great bunch of youth. They work hard, they play hard, and during the state tournament, they really wanted to win. They came out and we went 4-0. I think the closest that the other team came was about 7 or 8 runs below us. And so they came out and they played hard. I mean, it showed too, because our last game to win the championship, the first inning, they came out and got 9 runs in the first inning. And so we won that one 15-2, I believe. So
In the
it was
championship
in
game?
the championship game. So
Wow.
it was a fun game to coach, and I know they had fun. So they went out and did it.
So what happens next? So you've won. You will represent Utah in the regionals. This is the the Little League Juniors.
Correct.
You've won Utah. So now you'll move on to the regionals. Tell us about regionals.
Yeah, so Bend, Oregon is where we're going. We actually leave next Tuesday. Our first game will be on Thursday against Northern California. At
Fantastic.
1 o'clock local, their time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And it's just bracket play.
Yeah, after that, we win. I believe we play Southern California, and then we won't talk about the losers bracket because we don't want to be there.
Yeah,
so.
Well, I can't tell you how proud we are of this accomplishment. What's it? So did COVID affect this group at all?
Yeah, so actually almost all of them, I think. We've kind of deemed them the COVID kids because when they would have been in what's the 12U, the one that goes to San Bernardino, the one that really gets a lot of media from Little League International, that was their year of COVID when that happened. And so they missed out on that opportunity completely. And so this, for
So
some
come
of them,
back.
it's kind of redemption and come back and do this.
Play that same group as they're just a little bit older. Councilman Ivey, you were there. You were up at the tournament watching the grandson, saw some of these games. What do you have to add?
You know, just that we're very proud of you. You know, this is a great legacy of great athletics and great coaching leadership in our city. And I do recognize one young man that I taught years ago. And so, you know, I just really appreciate it, Mayor. It's always great to see Washington. They're great young men. They have great sportsmanship. They compete and they win.
And you coached for how many years?
30.
So you know a thing or two about baseball.
Just one little thing, but that was high school, Dixie High. So, but I'm out now, so I can cheer for you guys at Pineview and Crimson, and so don't worry about that.
Any parents here, raise your hand. Well, we're really proud of the way that you and your children are representing Washington, putting us on the map. We've got a lot of good things happening here. Talking to the council, we realize that it's not cheap to go up to Bend, Oregon, and you kind of got to pool the resources. And so we've come together, and as a mayor and council, we have a little donation, Wayne, that we'd like to present to you on behalf of us for your team, for any needs that you may have to get up there. But we've got a check here from Washington City, from the mayor and council for $500. And that's made payable to Washington Junior All-Stars, who will represent Utah in the regionals. How about a round of applause for this team?
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I will come down and present you this check, which will not run through the check machine at the bank. So I'll put you in touch with Brian right here. He'll get you the real check.
Perfect.
But in the meantime, let's go down and do one more photo op with this
I'd
presentation.
like to present to you, Mayor and Councilman Ivey, for your great support. These are the hats we'll be wearing up in Bend, Oregon. So we'd like to present those.
Fantastic. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you, Lane. Appreciate it. Beautiful.
You're just powerful. Mayor, if I may take a quick moment.
Please.
Wayne's the coach this year, but a lot of times Little League folks, the board and the board president don't get recognized much, but Wayne's been the board president for a number of years as well. And there's other parents in this room and in our city that spent a lot of time serving the Little League through the board service.
And I can tell you that although this won't necessarily benefit you, maybe some of your siblings or futures, but this council just approved a $300,000 upgrade to the Little League field, new LED lighting and upgrades to the scoreboard and PA system. So you know, we're committed to baseball like you're committed to baseball. I guess we're committed in a different way, but we love it. All right, we'll move on to item 3 of the agenda, which is any declarations of abstentions or conflicts for this meeting. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, which is the consent agenda. 4A is consideration to approve the minutes from City Council meeting of 7/13/22. 4B is consideration to approve a final plat for Queens Ridge Phase 2 located at approximately 3500 South Washington Fields Road. Item 4C, consideration to approve a final plat for Queens Ridge Phase 3, also located at approximately 3500 South Washington Fields Road. Item 4D should look familiar to you. This is consideration to approve an award of bid for steel transmission structures for the Main Street Substation upgrade and UDOT Exit 11 projects to Transamerican Power Products, TAPP, in the amount of $93,526. And this is the change. If UDOT chooses larger self-supporting poles, the amount would increase to $107,042. That's the change for you, council. Item 4E is consideration to approve an award of bid for the 69 kV switches for the Main Street Substation upgrade to PassCore in the amount of $50,610. And item 4F is consideration to allow for additional cities to participate in an automatic and mutual aid fire and emergency medical services interlocal agreement. I'll entertain brief clarifications on this and or a motion.
I just have a quick question on the final plats for the Queens Ridge, and it's for Drew. It's really early. Are they planning on bonding? They've graded the subdivision. That's all they've done.
You know, I'm not sure. Eldon would probably have more. Yeah, I guess we're
It just seems really early, but maybe they're just getting through the process.
Yeah, sometimes we do encourage them because they have up to 12 months to record, and so sometimes they like to get it in, get it reviewed and ready. Okay. And sometimes I tell them I'm fine with the collecting dust, you know, because they have a year to record it, so they're not being held up. And some take advantage of that, and some don't, and they might be taking advantage of that. So,
good question. Comfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hold someone up for moving forward. I think it works good. I just want to make sure that we're not going longer than we need to with where they're barely got it graded and have quite a few months of work left before they can record it. So
yeah, sometimes I wonder, you know, but they have a plan, I guess, in place, and sometimes they need to go forward with it. So we'll give them that time, and they can always bond for it too to get it, you know. So we just we won't sign the plat until either it's completed work or it's bonded for. So,
and the plat has the trail easements on it that it's supposed to, and has and the roadway fully dedicated. So I'm assuming it all come with final.
And I'm excited to get the other half of Washington Fields Road done right there too. That's so needed right at that area. So
yeah, good comments. Any other clarifications, brief questions before I entertain a motion?
Yes, Mayor, on 4D, I just want a clarification that whether it's the 93,000 or the 107, UDOT will reimburse the city, whatever that is.
Rick's giving us the nod that that is correct.
Okay, where that doesn't impact our budget, then I'm very comfortable with that and going forward with that.
Okay, it's a large consent agenda. Appreciate those comments. Appreciate your preparation, council. I know you read through all of these. I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda as outlined.
I have a motion by Coates,
Second.
second by Martinson. We'll go roll call. Let's start with Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
Coates.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. Item 5E, ordinances. We've got a couple of ordinances that need a little bit of clarification, minor amendments. Item 5A is consideration to approve an ordinance amending City Code Title 9, Chapters 9-8A, -8A, and 9-8B-7A. This is removing family member restrictive language from detached accessory dwelling units, and our City Attorney Thad Sigmiller will present on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an amendment that has been discussed. I think it came up even as we discussed the internal accessory dwelling unit ordinance a few meetings ago. The purpose here is just to bring both the interior and the external accessory dwelling unit ordinances so that they have the same criteria. There had been a family members only requirement on the external. We wanted to get rid of that. We didn't adopt that in the internal, and so that's the purpose here. Otherwise, there was a slight adjustment to one or two areas. For example, the nature of the cooking apparatus in the kitchen that we adjusted in the detached to also make it consistent with the internal. Otherwise, that's the only change we've got. Any questions that I might be able to answer?
Council?
Some of you may be asking, why do I call it internal and detached? State law calls it internal and external. Our detached ordinance predates the state law on both, and so we called it detached before the state called it external, but they called it internal before we did. So we've got a DADU and an IADU, a detached and an internal.
Well, I appreciate the leadership of this council, giving you that direction to work on that, Council Sigmiller. Any additional comments, questions before we have a motion on this item? I'll be happy to entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending City Code Title 9, Chapters 9-8A, -8A, and 9-8B, -7A, removing family member restrictive language from detached accessory dwelling units.
I have a motion by Ivy,
Second.
second by Casperson. This is an ordinance, so we'll go roll call. Ivy.
Aye.
Coates.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Casperson.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. 5B is consideration to approve an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 8, Title 8, Regulation for Construction Time of Public Projects. City Attorney Thad Sigmiller.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a fairly recent ordinance, but a good catch by our Public Works Director, Mike Shaw. He mentioned that he'd had some feedback or just some insight that he wanted to make it clear that for public projects, which is mostly referring to Washington City projects or UDOT projects that are, in partnership with Washington City, because we have a different inspection regime and different times, we wanted to make it clear for the industry that the early start time at 3 a.m. is not mandatory for those. There's probably circumstances when public projects will happen at those type of times, but the vendors can't require that it happen at those times. And so we've just put a little clarifying language there. You'll see in yellow to make it clear that it's not mandatory for public.
Okay. Questions or a motion?
Because I'm assuming a lot of these public projects need to be overseen by your crew, and that makes total sense to me. So,
Have you had any feedback on Council Henderson singing or?
No singing, and the newspaper's not even here. So
I've stopped singing because of all of that. So just so you know.
All right, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending City Code, Chapter 8, Title 8, Regulation for Construction Time of Public Projects.
I have a motion by Casperson,
Second.
second by Coates. Roll call: Coates.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Casperson.
Aye.
Ivy.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Item 6, resolution. 6A, this is consideration to approve a resolution adopting the 2022 5-County Associations of Governments Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Paul Mogul, City Engineer, if you'd come tell us about that.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. The 5-County Association of Governments has developed a natural hazard mitigation plan intended to equip the region with an action plan to preserve the built environment, populations, industry, and natural world that makes southwestern Utah a vibrant place to live and recreate. The 5-County Associations of Governments Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan is a local plan supporting 43 jurisdictions in the southwest region of Utah. This plan provides each participating jurisdiction with a set of actions specific to the needs observed in their community through data collection and analysis for this plan. And then, as you probably are well aware, pages 1115 through 1148 are the natural hazard mitigation plan that pertains to Washington City. And then one of the main key elements that come from this is that participating jurisdictions with an eligible natural hazard mitigation plan may apply for certain federal emergency management agency or FEMA funding for pre-disaster mitigation projects. And we've benefited from this. One of the projects that we have currently that will start construction in September is the Pineview Estates erosion protection project. That one is eligible for the FEMA funding, and so we're benefiting from that. And then we also have another one, the Sullivan Park Brick project. So we definitely benefit from having this mitigation plan in place and benefit from the FEMA funding that is available because we're part of this. And it's recommended that the City Council pass the resolution and adopt the 5-County Association of Governments Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, and I'm available for any questions that I can assist with.
Questions for our city engineer? And/or discussion amongst the council?
Mayor, I don't know that I have a question other than just maybe a comment. On page 1119, it lists the hazards for Washington City. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna list them quickly. The first one listed is drought, and that risk is high, and we know that, right? Wildfire, the risk is high. Floods, the risk are high. So floods and droughts are both high risk for Washington, which is interesting at this point. Severe weather, moderate. Earthquakes, moderate. Landslides, moderate. Then radon, which is radioactive gas from uranium, is low, and problem soils are low. My question is, the problem soils are listed on here as low, but I don't know that I completely agree with that. I don't want to upend any experts, but it seems like we have contingencies for soils almost throughout the entire city.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of areas that have a lot of problem soils. Yeah, I'd agree with that statement. I'm not entirely sure the ranking system here.
But I look at it as, yes, we have problem soils, but we know how to mitigate them for constructabilities. And so it's not something like a drought and flood we can't control, but we can control problem soils to an extent. So that's why I wonder if that's why they rate it lower than.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
A lot of these objectives for their goals or actions at Washington City, it seems like we already have the goals and plans for. It seems like as I was reading through all of them. And so, but this is just like the resolution is just saying that we accept that we will do these plans and these going forward. That's kind of how it works.
Right, yeah. Yep, exactly. That we're, with these natural hazards that come, these are some of the mitigation plans that we have in place for it.
But it gives them no like authority to make decisions. I read that in there also. It's just so.
Further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution adopting the 2022 5 County Associations of Government Multi-Jurisdiction Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Have a motion by Coates,
I'll second that, Mayor.
second by Henderson. This is a resolution, so we'll do roll call vote. Henderson?
Aye.
Martinson?
Aye.
Casperson?
Aye.
Ivy?
Aye.
Coates?
Aye.
The resolution is approved unanimously. We appreciate your work on that, Paul. You're doing a great job. Item 7, signage. 7A is consideration to approve Sienna Hills Auto Mall signage plan. And we have some representatives there. Our city manager, Jeremy Redd, is going to present on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is another item in our list of approvals for the highly anticipated Sienna Hills Auto Mall. Let's see, I was working on getting this up on the screen. We'll see. Oh, there we go. You have it? Okay. So this, the applicant is requesting a waiver from our traditional sign policy. They're requesting a waiver from the maximum height and size of a commercial sign. And the biggest reason for that is they intend to have one sign that represents the entire auto mall rather than each individual dealership having their own aerial sign. So we like that idea. Staff is supportive of that because of that reasoning. And then there are a list of criteria that we apply to all electronic signs that they would be required to follow. If you look on the map here, Drew's kind of going to blow up the section there. You can see the existing sign for the, well, there's a Maverick sign on it, and it's for the existing development will be moving. So that's where he's highlighting is where the current sign is located. And this new sign will be moving just to the west in that development. And then the existing Sienna Hills sign will be moving to the west as well. The existing monument sign that advertises Maverick and
east or west?
It'll move west to the property that we've swapped. That little sliver right there that we swapped out.
That's the new sign though, right?
No, that's the old sign. The old sign will move west. The new sign will also move west, but not as far west. You see where Drew may even get his pencil out here. So this is the existing, that section right there is where the new sign that you're approving tonight will move to.
So where's the old one going?
Show them that little finger there, right there. It's going to go in that area.
We're going to sliver it in there.
Is that why that dimension is?
Yeah, it won't have all of the landscaping and everything that it has now, but.
I know, it's a shame. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, but you know what's even more beautiful? The sales tax that comes from selling cars.
He's got a one-track mind.
That's right. So if you'll go to the next page, Drew, that gives you an idea of what the sign will look like that they're requesting approval for. Just scroll down. So that's the existing sign. It's 1,745 square feet in area, 70 feet tall as opposed to the 50-foot height maximum that we have for a normal sign in the area. And then the message board is 487 square feet. It'll be 16 and a half feet tall and almost 30 feet wide, 29 and a half feet wide, double-sided.
So why do we need it this big? Can't a regular sign work?
I'd invite Jared Wheeler, who's the applicant, up to explain that to you. I think he'd do a better job than I will. I think I already answered the question, but I'll let him answer it a different way.
Well, I understand what you said, but I'm just not sure I understand why it has to be so big.
Mayor, council members, thank you. Go ahead. So to piggyback off what Jeremy said, when we designed this auto mall, everything was about being clean, modern, especially with the high-tech electric stuff that we're bringing in here. we didn't want to clutter it up with signs all down the freeway. So this was a really beautiful aesthetic solution that we came up with.
But it looks like it's an electronic board that you're just going to swap names or whatever for each dealership. So I still don't understand why it has to be above our sign ordinance.
Correct. I mean, it's kind of the entrance to the auto mall coming down that parkway. You know, this rendering doesn't have Washington City on there, which we're going to have. I don't know if
You said that last time.
Yeah.
Just curious why it's not updated. No, I'm just giving you a
Oh
hard time.
gosh. Yeah. So it'll be Sienna Hills Auto Mall at Washington City.
So I think that's a great looking sign. So those panels, is that stainless steel or what is that material?
Correct. Yeah. It's and then the it's metal right there on the red too. I feel like the sign's a lot more beautiful on the pictures that I have for some reason. I should have got you some
That's a
updated
pretty
one.
sign.
It is, yeah.
When I first saw the dimensions, I was like, holy smokes, that thing is massive. But then I started Googling, dimensions of your typical highway signs and local buildings around here. It's not as big as I initially thought it was when I saw the dimensions. What is the typical height of one of those highway signs that we see? I think it's 50 feet, right? 50 feet tall.
They're usually 50 feet and about the same in the dimension of the LED sign.
Yeah.
Is what they end up being. Actually, they're 600, I think some of them are 600 and something feet the state allows on a billboard. I was just going to transpose it with and just imagine, look at the Kohl's. That sign, actually, that had special permission from a previous council to go above because, and I know it has different situations because it sets so much lower than the freeway, but the height on it is, I think, taller than this one, all from top to bottom, and it's a lot more wide. Just, advertising Kohl's, the Best Buy, except just to give you a little perspective of what we already have just down the freeway a little bit, a mile and a half down that's a really big sign.
Well, just for
our
like when
area.
I saw the 70 feet, I was like, 7 stories, that's taller than the St. George Temple. But then I looked up the temple and the temple's 225 feet tall. So, what? Oh.
Extension cord isn't working.
Oh,
good.
I know, yeah. So that's
It's just how it
7/10
keeps
of an
you-
extension cord right there. So it's not too bad.
I'm always
Anyway,
gonna
I like the sign. It looks good.
Thank
So
you.
is that going to be one of those high definition
Yes.
television
Yep.
signs? Nice. So,
Now, did you see the criteria we put on that? Did you, on what we're saying, like at nighttime, it's got to have
Yeah,
auto dimming,
with it
all
not
those,
switching and animated. Yes,
no
I did. Yes, sir.
flashing. Okay, just
Yep.
so I hope that you got to see that and you're okay.
Yeah,
'cause
we did.
That's kind of state regulations on billboards, the same
Right.
thing. So we just wanted to keep it that way. Where images minimum of 8 seconds, but they just have to change one right into the next.
Right, correct. We saw that. And how long the auto mall is with it being 43 acres. It's a really long stretch, and this will really be the only sign representing the entire, 43 acres. I hope it's big enough, like with how big the project's going to be. But I do believe it's a beautiful sign. We spent a lot of time on it.
Well, I would imagine you spend a lot of money as well.
Yeah.
Let me
yes.
share some of my thoughts. I looked at this also. It's 20 feet taller than our current ordinance, and it's about 1,300 square feet bigger. And to put it in perspective, the signboard itself is just about what our sign ordinance is right now, just the where the car is. And I'm not necessarily against it, but I just want to address one concern that I have. So, Mr. Red, you mentioned that this was kind of a cumulative total of the area, so that if there's 6 dealerships, then this serves as one sign. But if we use that rationale, can that ever be a negative thing if someone else is to use this same criteria in a strip mall, that we necessarily wouldn't want that big of a sign, but yet we kind of set precedent with that as justification?
Yeah, I would say you're not really setting a precedent because you're allowed to look at each project individually and determine whether it's appropriate. This sign is also really similar to the new Red Cliffs Mall sign that's gone in. So if anybody has seen that,
Is it
but again,
size similar to that as well?
Size
Have you been
similar.
over there, Council Henderson, to measure that?
I'm
with your
gonna
tape
take a
that you
ladder
carry?
over there tomorrow.
I'll hold the
But-
ladder, but I'm not going up.
Maybe we get that ladder truck.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about as I was, tossing this around was, I think the elevation from the freeway to the bottom of this sign is probably a 30-foot
Correct.
elevation change.
Correct.
And
It's a
so
huge point.
this sign would probably look huge on Telegraph right here.
Right.
But I think proportionally out where you guys are building, I think it's going to look just about right.
Correct.
Even though it's taller than our ordinance.
So you're planning on mounting it up like the current sign is, or no?
As far as elaborate a little bit.
Is it as far as the elevation? So the existing sign, that's the Sienna Hills sign.
No, you mean building up the earth?
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah, so it would go up because it's going to be on the pads. If we can pull up the other one, it goes right in
about
between.
an 8 to 10 foot lift on.
Yeah, at
mounting
least.
it up to get a high.
At least, I'd say.
So, Mr. Wheeler, what will a sign actually say when we're done?
So it'll represent the brands that are there.
I mean, the heading, the top part where it says Sienna Hills, where you say it's going to say something about Washington. What is that going to look like?
Yeah, so what we have is Sienna Hills Auto Mall at Washington City. But I mean, we're definitely open to changing it. It's not built yet, correct? So if you want
Right through here that you have
at Washington City, yeah. Or the other plan we had was just Washington City on the top, but I think we should have feedback on that.
Well, I think it's your sign. I think that's your call. I just am pleased that we're going to have Washington City there.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't noticed, we're really on the rise around here.
Right. I know. Just from this whole meeting, it was so incredible. I was getting goosebumps. That was really awesome. On this too, as far as the dealers that are coming in, they've always been super supportive of the community that they're in, right? And everyone we've talked to would love for any advertisements, I shouldn't say advertisements, but city events you guys have can flash through there. Every dealer wants to be represented, that they're supporting their community, doing all those things. So that's been a huge part. Every communication we've had has been that way with dealers. And they're all, of course, yeah.
So, Mr. Sigmiller, this question is kind of for you, because I don't know the answer. I tried to find it, but my legal research skills aren't as good as your geology skills. So is the state standard the 0.3 foot candle power? Is that a state ordinance guide, or is that something that's municipal? I just want to make sure that that is within the scope of what's legal.
Yeah, so back when I was on council is when the state decided to adopt statute to regulate highway billboards, especially those that were becoming electronic. And so that is the state standard. Cities can choose to work around that if they want to, but our cities essentially just adopted the state standard as well, and that's the standard set by the legislature. Freeway signs and billboards have an element of state regulation, and so we try not to deviate from what the state's done there, because when the state comes and regulates it, we're pretty safe in regulating it at least identically to what the state has done. And so we try to stick close to that, simply because it makes it hard for others to, challenge our regulation if we're adopting the state standard.
And I'm not concerned with it, with just the geography around it, with the business, and the houses are recessed in such a distance away that I don't see that would ever be an issue. I just wanted to make sure that was in line with the state code.
It is, yep.
I just make one more comment about the Washington City. When we looked at this and they brought us this sign, it really is one of the entrances to our city as you come out of the cut in the hill, and this will be one of the first things you see. And so it's one of the reasons that we pitched this idea of putting Washington City's name on it, among other reasons. But they were very receptive to that. I think it really helps to help people recognize where the auto mall is located and the support that you've given it in different ways. And so the group was really supportive of that idea, and we'll make it look really nice. Maybe even a logo on it if we're really careful.
Well, I thought staff's recommendations as far as conditions were really thoughtful as well. I appreciate the time you took into that. I really like the the automatic dimming technology that allows that to dim at night, so it's not intrusive to the neighbors. And of course, there's a list of conditions that I think make sense. And obviously, you're familiar with those. I might just recommend, and I know in good faith, but I think we all like the idea of having at Washington City on there.
I like that verbiage.
It might be appropriate to add that to the motion, that be an additional condition on there.
I'm very good with that.
Council, have your concerns been addressed? Are you comfortable making a motion, or you want to have further discussion on this?
Just a question. I'm not a sign guy, so knowing that other one's going to be moved, and then this one, just looking at the driving, how is that going to affect what people see? Is it going to be in the line of sight? Is that other sign going to be obstructing this one from I-15, from that corridor? Just as I'm just looking as you're driving, you're not going to see it till you're right there, or are you going to see it farther back?
Well, I'll just step in. They're going to cross at one point when you're driving by them. At one point, one will be in front of the other. But I think the way with that little offset, with that piece that sticks out that we were showing here, let me drag that finger up there, and this. But the way the road is at the angle, I-15, they'll really be a little bit more skewed than in line with each other. But they will cross at one point. We just know that's just geometry, right? But I hope they've thought about that, I was surprised they were putting it so far. It doesn't matter. I'm fine with it no matter where it goes. But yeah, they will cross at one point. But I think the angle of I-15 really kind of helps offset one. At one point they'll actually almost be side by side, but with a depth perception on that. Didn't mean to overspeak with you, but it just because I thought about the same thing.
I failed geometry, so thank you for bringing that up. And the other one's only going to be 50 feet, correct? The current one that's moving
the existing one,
I
right?
hope that they can get, it depends on where it looks like they're within the 1,500 foot. For an on-ramp or off-ramp, 50 foot's an exception, actually. You have to get a CUP on. But you have to be within 1,500 feet of an exit or an entrance to the interstate. So I think if they want to, I don't know if it's that high right now. It might be. I'm guessing it's probably close to it. So, but again, it'll be shorter, but they won't be able to go any higher than 50 feet on that one at the max.
Good discussion. Further discussion on this? I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I'm comfortable making that motion to approve a Sienna Hills Auto Mall signage with the addition that somewhere in the sign it will say at Washington City, and the cotton ball is optional.
I have a motion by Ivy.
Second.
Second by Martinson. This is not an ordinance or a resolution, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your new sign is approved unanimously. Congratulations, Jared.
Thank you.
We appreciate the progress you're making. We look forward to to great things to come there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, council members. Thank you.
Item 8, report of officers from assigned committees. I know we're in the middle of the dog days of summer, but if you have anything to add, we'll start on this end with Councilman Martinson.
Just getting ready for youth council to start back up after school starts.
Great.
That's it.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have a couple of things. First thing, I want to do a shout out to the power department. So up in my neighborhood, up on Quail Ridge Drive where I live, they are converting some overhead lines to some underground lines. So the power crew's been up there, one of the crews been up there for about a week working on it. And they are very professional. And I've had several neighbors compliment on how professional the crew is, how clean they are, what a good job they're doing, and what nice guys they are. And so anyway, shout out. I know Jordan Jolly pretty well, and he's one of the guys up there, and they've been doing a good job. So I want another shout out to the Planning Commission. They always do a great job. One suggestion I'd like to make, though, I know that we probably ought to think about taking a look at the general plan and maybe making some adjustments to that. In particular, Main Street area from Telegraph up north, and also the Telegraph corridor. I think once they start the new off-ramp, we're going to see some major changes coming at us in a hurry. And I think we need to kind of get ahead of that and maybe in the not so distant future, take a look at least those areas in the general plan to make some adjustments on there. So I'd like to do that, at least start talking about it, within the next month or two, just so we're not behind. We need to make sure we get in front of it. But my other committee assignments, we haven't had any meetings since the last time we've met. So thanks, Mayor.
Well, appreciate your service there on the Planning Commission and overseeing that board, and confident that that's a good place for those general plan updates to start. And I'm confident Drew will be happy to work on that with you and with that body, and then council, any input that we have too, we'll have our opportunity. You'll have your opportunity to jump in there. But good counsel, good feedback. Councilmember Coates.
Yeah, nothing to report. Haven't had any meetings since the last meeting.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Ivy.
So I had a great opportunity this last week. I went up and went on a ride along with our Washington City Fire Department. It was firefighters Bendel, Neil, Jolly, and Captain Lang. And while I was there, they actually had a call. And I got to ride in the fire truck. My grandsons were so jealous. But I got to ride in the fire truck. And, it seems to be a reoccurring theme tonight. But I'm just proud. How do you get emotional about a city? I don't understand that. But I'm just proud. They're just good people. What? Anyway, we went on a ride with them, and it was great to just see them in their environment working, and I really appreciated that. Got a great update from Police Department, Chief Williams, great summary analysis, and appreciate all they do as well. Really quickly, we did have a legislative policy update. When we meet again, I would have gone to the Capitol and for a legislative policy first next month, but just some things that I think that you'd want to know. One was from the Gardner Policy Institute. They did a housing report, and they're calling it record-breaking home construction. In 2017, the Gardner Policy Institute stated that Utah's housing gap was 56,000 units. This week, in a report that the Salt Lake Board of Realtors commissioned, the Gardner Institute announced the gap has shrunk to 31,000 units. So making strides in the right direction, still not there yet, but just about cut that in half. There was a legislative advocacy committee, discussed short-term rentals again, and that's back on the radar. We were talking earlier about some legislative updates. There is some updates to some of those, and we anticipate at least 2 bills that will reassess short-term rentals, what they look like, and they mentioned that they were just unprecedented with 19,000 short-term rental listings, increased in 27%. And so they're looking at some of those and how those numbers impact short-term rentals and what they need to do on that. But Mayor, that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I haven't had any meetings since
Great.
July.
I'll be brief. I'm very grateful for the rain that we've had recently, and grateful that the rain is conveying to the tributaries appropriately. So appreciate that. And then we had a wonderful Pioneer Day celebration. Really grateful for the community participation, council participation that we had in the parade, in the breakfast provided by the Lions Club, and all those community organizations that showed up and did the booths and things, and had a wonderful fireworks show that night. So I really appreciate fire department and police department with the parade, and all the, kind of takes all hands on deck to run a city, but it was a wonderful event. Item number 9, city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a report tonight.
And item 10 is closed session. We have no need for closed session, so we'll scoot right along to 11, which is a call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Coates, second by Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.